here we are in front of City Hall. We just went in and talked with Officer Rivera for a few minutes. Great guy, can't say enough good things about him. We are heading over across the street over that way in just a minute to have our long-awaited meeting with IA about Porky Pig, the officer that assaulted us down in Ybor City about, I think it was 5, almost 6 months ago, maybe now at this point, that occurred. So I will update you guys all on that and let you know what's going on, and we will be back. Thanks a lot. All right, you guys, here we go. Round 2.
Yes, I can help you.
Hey, I'm here to see Neil Smith again today.
All righty, door's open.
All right, thanks. How we doing again today, man? Well, I actually saw him pulling out yesterday, like 45 minutes after I was in here. Yeah, he's coming back today. Alright, cool. Yeah. So did you get rested up?
Yeah.
All right. They had you busy last week, huh?
Busy for several months.
Oh, they got you understaffed or what?
Well, there's only 4 of us.
Oh yeah?
So,
where you want to go?
Between the, let me close this.
Okay.
Between the riots and the Super Bowl and the hockey championship.
And everything else.
It's just been crazy. It's been crazy.
Busy.
So, you know what the weird thing is? All I had is Bill as your name.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to send out any correspondence to you by mail, but the original complaint against the officer was refusal to identify herself.
In the use of force, because she shoved me in the chest 3 times.
All right. Okay, so, but originally I thought you were just...
That was that and the use of force. Okay. It was both.
Okay.
But the use of force was a primary complaint because she had shoved me like, whew. So that was the initial complaint that I had. And I know the first time I was down here with several other guys and stuff. And that was because I had tried to get a hold of somebody in here before that, and it was impossible. We had to go down and talk to Officer Rivera, and then he called in, and then you would come down at that point. So there was already so much that had gone on up until then.
Well, I reviewed the videos from several different angles, not only your video, but the officers that had body-worn camera.
Did they? Can
Yes.
I get those too then?
Well,
also?
you'd have to do what's called a FOIA
I know.
request, and
Yeah.
yes, you
I am right now.
Yeah. Okay. But based on the totality of what was going on, I don't know if you realize the person they were stopping fled from them, which is a felony. And regardless of if you agree with the stop, I'm not going to get into that, but it was a felony. They had someone in custody, and there was a crowd, okay, that was kind of, I'm not going to say surrounding them, but encroaching on them. So the first thing is the identification. I know that you have your Eyes on the State, and I've seen multiple videos, and in the videos I've seen you request that information.
Yep. And I'm very polite to the officers that give it to me, and I leave them alone after that, and it's that's what it is. They did what they were supposed to do. I'll do what I'm supposed to do, and we'll continue on with life both ways.
But I'm just to you may not understand the policy, so that's why I brought it to you here.
Yeah, I would like to know.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So for identification, and I'll read it to you. 1805. This is our manual regulations, general procedures. Let me get my glasses on here. Department employees shall carry their badge. All right. Department employees shall furnish their name and badge number or employee number, whichever is applicable.
Correct.
To any person requesting such information. An exception shall be made when necessary in the performance of police duties, and they are properly authorized not to do so.
Okay.
Was
she authorized?
Yes,
not to
because
do
her
so?
sergeant was standing right next to her.
Okay, so he authorized her not to give.
He was in earshot and understood everything that was going on. It's not a both, but in this situation, and let's be honest, there's 50 people there. You're shouting.
I didn't shout at her until she shouted at me, though.
Right.
Then that's when the shouting began. When she assaulted me, then refused to identify to me, that's when that began. At that point, I didn't shout at her before that. I kept a more than 10-foot distance from them. Also, I never encroached more than a 10-foot distance on them.
Right.
So there was no threat from me.
But you weren't the only one that was there. Is what I'm saying. You're not the only one.
I was the only one with that gimbal right there, though.
You're right. But she pushed multiple people. You can see it on the video. There's multiple people that she pushed back. So what I'm saying is, she was performing her duties, and at that point, for her to stop and, hey, this is my name, let me just talk to you.
It would have taken her 3 seconds to say her name and her badge.
But
3 seconds.
It's under a felony arrest, and you don't have to agree with it. I'm just saying that this is already.
I don't agree with it at all. I mean, I really don't, because if I would have pushed her, I would have been in jail for felony assault on a Leo. I mean, really. There was no reason for her to put her hands on me. She could clearly see I was recording the incident. I was clearly outside of a boundary that would have given them a reasonable cause for me to be a danger to them at that point. They had closed the street down by the start of the arrest that they had started by leaving the bike in the center of the street. I mean, I don't think that she should just get away with refusing to identify to me and shoving me. The shoving me is the more serious of the incidences. I mean, if I was drunk, like I said, and I've said this a bunch of times, if I was drunk and screaming at them and, let them go and encroaching on them in some sort of threatening manner, I could see her disposition of actually putting her hands on me at that point and touching me. That would be an instance to where she would definitely have cause in her performance of her duties to do that. She had no cause to do that at that point.
You're talking about the pushing?
Yes. She had no cause to do that at that point. When she touched me, she assaulted me. Under the definition of the law, she did assault me at that point because it was an unwanted touching.
Well, but if she's giving lawful commands for a crowd to back up...
then she has to identify that also. And once again...
Identify how, though? How would she identify that?
She wasn't identified at all. Anybody can buy anything. She needed to give me her name and her badge number in order to give me a lawful command at that point, and she didn't do that.
But the law states, though, just so you know, she's clearly in her uniform.
But anybody can buy
I know, but are you saying that she's not a...
No, I'm not, but I'm saying that anybody could have bought a badge and a uniform and put it on and tried to do that. There's people who are arrested for that all the time trying to impersonate.
But you're not suggesting that
I'm not suggesting that that's what this case is, but that's the point of having the ID, is so that the citizen or the public or whoever it is that they're dealing with understands who it is that they're dealing with and what that person is. So that later on, if something were to happen, like in this case, they want to talk to somebody about it, they want to file a complaint about it, they want to give the officer a congratulations because they did a good job, they need to know who that officer is.
Right. And I agree. I agree 100%.
I mean, these are
I'm just saying,
points, right?
It is. But I think there's probably way more examples of an officer standing around at a coffee shop or cigar shop, and you're approaching him and asking for his name and back. Now,
not me.
No, I'm saying, this is an example. Now, in that situation, they're not doing anything. They have to, by our policy, tell you who they are, give you their, even if it's not visible. I get that. But an officer that it's pretty much surrounded in Ybor City on an Ybor night, there's a felony arrest, a guy's in handcuffs. That's why we're looking at this.
And that guy didn't try to run from them. It was the first night of the bars opened in Ybor at that point. It was the first weekend. It was worse the other day when I was down there.
With Super Bowl?
Yeah, Friday night, it was way worse down there than it was this night. And there were people that were trying to help her because the person that they were arresting couldn't speak English.
All right, I heard the video.
So there were people trying to help her and help them do what they were doing, and they weren't. She took it way wrong. And you could see the look in her face. Like when I asked her for her name and badge number, you could see the look and the demeanor in her face change at that point when I asked her for that. That was, how dare you, you're not going to talk to me like that, and you're going to get away from me. And she pushed me away from her at that point. And that was inappropriate. It really was. I mean, there's thousands of people that have seen that video, and there's thousands of people that believe that that was inappropriate actions by her also. I mean, it's not just me, and as you see, I'm having a good conversation about this here with you on it. I mean, I think at least a little bit she should learn de-escalation techniques and how to de-escalate things like that and what's going on. It seems like it's Ybors, it seems like, truthfully, that there's an issue down in Ybor with de-escalation and the attitude of the officers that are down in Ybor, to tell you the truth. It doesn't seem that they're very community-oriented down in Ybor. It seems that they're more of a standoffish, and they're like, I'm busy, get away from me kind of a deal. Is what it really seems
Ybor's a different animal.
It is, completely.
And what happens generally is, to work that late night shift are younger officers.
And it takes a certain type of person,
and they're young. They have no experience. They're not used to dealing with people. When you throw them down, in Ybor where there's hundreds and maybe 1,000 people and they're drunk.
Yep. Yeah,
it puts them in a precarious situation where even sometimes some of the most seasoned people, because I know how to talk to people, but I've dealt with Ybor drunks, and
it's
sometimes there's no winning.
Yes,
there's no winning. And compound that with and I've been doing this job 23 years. Compound that with the public's opinion of police officers. These guys, when they're out, they're yelled at, they're sometimes spit on, cameras in their faces 24/7. I never came up with that, but that is part of our society today.
But that's what it's. Yeah. It's morphed itself into that because of the way that some of the actions are let go, and they're not dealt with in the way that they should be dealt with, I believe, on both sides. Because, look, if those officers were nicer down in Ybor, they would probably have a better time down in Ybor than they have down there. Like, I deal with Riviera all the time. Riviera is smiling, happy, nice.
You deal with him
congenial.
Over at the...
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's sitting behind a desk.
He is sitting behind a desk, but he didn't start behind that desk.
No, I know. Oh, you dealt with him in the street?
Not in the street, no. Normally, I don't see you guys in the street unless I'm filming and I'm recording, and that's the only time that I see you guys in the street.
My thing is, and I've watched a lot of your videos, and I get what you're doing. I get it. But I think if you just zeroed in, not just on the broad scope of all the officers, but maybe the bad apples. Maybe the bad apples.
Those are the ones that are sticking out. She's one of them. I had Sergeant James flip me off when I hadn't yelled at him.
I saw that video. I saw that.
Was that appropriate of him to do in a supervisory position?
I saw the finger, but I couldn't say that.
Well, then listen really close when I say, "Did you really just flip me off?" And he goes, "Yup, I did." So.
Well, did you go and report that?
I went to Lieutenant Miller. That's why I asked you if you heard from him on Wednesday when I called you and talked to you.
Not yet. So maybe they're probably going to look into it.
I would hope so. I mean, because I don't think that's appropriate actions. And those are the actions that, look, if he's willing to do that kind of stuff when somebody's standing there with a camera, what's he willing to do when there isn't anybody watching him? Those are the things that these people that watch these videos constantly, that's what they're afraid about. And that's what is causing that divide in between everybody. Personally, that's the way I see it. I mean, if you've got an officer that looks at a citizen when they tell them to wear their seatbelt, like command staff has said to do and they should be doing, and he flips them off, I mean, how does that go with community relations? How is the community going to look at that officer? They're going to look at that officer and go, wow, he might beat me if I look at him wrong, or what's going to happen to me. What's going to happen to me?
Well, let me ask you this, because cops are human too.
They are.
Not all of them, maybe one time they forget to wear their seatbelt and then they got a camera. It just seems like sometimes there's these minor violations that are being like...
But it seems to be that guys like me that continue to do this all the time, all over the country, seem to continually find those guys. Or else we wouldn't have any new content, right? We wouldn't have anything to report. We wouldn't have anything to say if there weren't sergeants flipping us off, driving down the street, not wearing their seatbelt. It happens all the time. That's not a lone instance that it happens. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. I really don't.
No, I mean, I get it. I think some good officers get caught up in that, and it appears from one instance of them not having a mask on or not having their seatbelt on that they're, and this thing mushrooms.
It sometimes does, but it mushrooms most of the time for good cause. When you catch the smallest thing, that normally leads into something bigger, doesn't it?
Okay, sometimes.
Okay then. So, and that's what investigative people do, is they look for an issue that's going on, and when they find an issue, that issue normally leads them to something larger that's happening. Wouldn't you go with that with a good investigative tactic? Okay, so if he's doing this already, what else could he be doing? Deductive reasoning would lead you to think that.
Yeah.
Even rational reasoning leads you to think that if he's going to act that way, how else is he going to act? What else is he going to do?
Well, I'm just asking you to, when you're out there, to take under consideration what's going on, what the officers' side is.
I do. That's why I was not on top of them. I wasn't right up in their face. I mean, I was far enough away from them to where they should have left me alone at that point in time, because the street was closed. They weren't having any traffic drive on that side. I was probably that far off of the sidewalk at that point, wasn't I? I mean, I wasn't far off of the sidewalk.
I know it was you, but there were multiple other people yelling.
So that's who they should have concentrated on, not the person with the camera that they knew was filming the incident and doing evidently what they do, which is film the incident.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't like I brought that into the bar and I've been drinking all night with it, and that's what I was there doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there should be rational thinking with these guys and what's going on and what's happening, and it should be decision based like that.
Right. Well, we're not always going to see eye to eye, and I get what you're saying. We have policies that are bigger than me, that this stuff goes above my head. And,
okay.
But I will tell you that it was looked into from different vantage points, and at this time she did not, because it's not excessive force. It's force. The force has to meet what was going on, and in our opinion is that pushing crowd back is not excessive force. Giving verbal commands, which she did, and pushing people back to maintain a scene, which is what that was, is not excessive. Okay, I've seen excessive.
I've seen excessive too. It was excessive. I don't think she should have pushed me.
Right.
If I would have pushed her back in retaliation, I would have been under arrest for assault and battery on Leo. Even if it was only just a pushback like that, I would have been under arrest. I actually put a body cam out that the department gave me a week ago of 2 officers, and they went and grabbed at a guy before they told him he was detained, before they told him he was under arrest, before anything at that point had happened. She went and grabbed at his side because he had a pocket knife down in his side right here. And he wasn't making any motions towards it. It wasn't like he was threatening them at any point in time. But they threw him into the back of his car and took the knife out of his pocket, and then both of them backed up away from him. And in doing so, he turned around like this with just his arms out like this and brushed across the walkie-talkie on the front of her chest. And they arrested him for assault and battery on a Leo at that point. Those are the things that we're worried about happening. You got to catch real criminals. I'm completely with you on that. Don't get me wrong here. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong in that fact. There's criminals out there that need to be arrested, need to be put in jail and stuff for the things that they do. But then there's other cases that we keep seeing more and more and more of, that they're putting people in jail that they shouldn't be putting in jail. This guy didn't assault her. He really did.
Well, all we can do is if you get something like that, like you do, you contact us and we look into it. And you know, I'm not going to say that every report we get, that officers don't get in trouble, because trust me, there's plenty
some do.
There's plenty of them this year and last year that have lost their jobs. I mean, we're averaging more terminations. Since I've been here. I'm
not yelling to have her fired. You haven't heard that come out of my mouth once. I'm not yelling to have her fired, but she should have some de-escalation tactics and you know, something of that notion, to where when she sees somebody with a gimbal and a camera sitting on them, she knows at that point that they're recording that event, and it's proven at this point. I mean, it's the Constitution.
Well, I will definitely bring that up.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I will definitely bring that up.
I'm not screaming about to have her fired and terminated over that, because that's not something that should cause that. I don't think, you know, we got to be rational in all of it, but, you know, maybe an hour of de-escalation training or something, just of the notion to know that, you know, there's a point that you have to watch at that point, because there's a point I have to watch. If I step across that crime scene line, I'm going to be in trouble for it. You know, there's lines that we both have on both sides of this.
Right. Well, a lot of it's, you know, me and you are probably around the same age. You ever dealt with millennials?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, okay, they're a little different.
They are.
And millennial cops are no different than
She's
millennials.
Not that young.
No, not her, but a lot of the problems is these people don't know how to talk to anyone, because all they've done is play video games for 20 years.
Correct.
And then you throw them out there with the regular public, and these are problems that we're facing.
Correct.
But how do you know, de-escalate maybe, but how about socializing?
That's a good one too. Maybe having them, instead of standing at the side with their hands like this, maybe they should be out and talking to people and saying hi and shaking hands with everybody. And hey, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to, you know, be the person that's going to throw you in jail tonight after you're done drinking.
Right.
Because that's the way the view is now at this point. Is they're not there to hang out and be, you know, congenial in the community. They're there to throw me in jail at the end of the night when I, you know, step over the line the wrong way.
Right.
And that's a scary thing at this point. I mean, you see where I'm coming from.
No, I do. I definitely do.
I mean,
I wouldn't have met with you, because I've been meaning to meet with you just to get your side, because I've watched a lot of your videos, and I get it.
I would put the videos of the good cops out there, but
I wish you would. I wish you would. To maybe, you know, throw us a bone every now and then.
I have. Did you see the video of Riviera?
No.
I put one out from him. Good vibes across it for the thumbnail. It's on there. It's just I don't really run into them very often. There's only few and far between that we find that are really good. I mean, at least because we have that camera.
Right.
When we don't have the camera, it's kind of a different story at that point. But when we have the camera and we're around with the camera, it's standoffish. It's we don't want to be around you. Don't talk to us. Stay away from us. I did run into Gainesville, up in Gainesville. The fire department was having training with the National Guard up there. Deputy fire chief comes out and says, "Hello, grab me some pictures, will ya?" Sure thing. Anything you want, man. Let's have at it. That was another video that I put out that was good. I mean, if you've got some good officers, why don't you tell them to call me and take me for a ride along or something?
That's a good idea.
And I'll stream it. I'll live stream it so everybody can see it. I won't cut anything out of it. I mean, you see that I don't cut very much out of my videos either, do I? I leave the entire content of everything that goes on for the most part. And if it's cut out, it's sped up so you can still see what's going on, but you just, like a dead section in the video, you know, like when I was sitting in the hallway over there.
Right.
So, I mean, have them contact me.
I will.
I mean, I'm not against the police force. I'm definitely not. I'm against.
Well, that's good to hear.
I'm against the bad apples in the police force is what I'm against.
And we need help trying to catch those bad apples. So,
and that's what I'm here to do. I mean, that's why I called you in the first place, because if she was going to do that to me, it makes me think, what else is she going to do? So now we need to take a look at it, and we need to have somebody else that's involved in it, and that's why I did that.
I'll definitely reach out to our supervisor about the de-escalation.
Yeah, I don't you think that is an appropriate, you know, something that I think she's been on the force for a little while.
Yeah, she's been there.
So I mean, she should have known at that point, you know. I mean, wouldn't you, if you saw me with that camera, wouldn't you know I mean, you saw how far I was away from him. I wasn't right on top of him, was I?
You weren't, but there was a crowd there.
There was.
Yeah.
And that's who they should have been dealing with, is a crowd. They shouldn't have even bothered with me at that point.
But I gotta tell you, even being a cop for as long as I have been, have there been innocent people that caught up, and when I'm in a crowd and I'm pushed, you know, it's happened to me.
It does.
It's happened to me, and what I'm trying to say is that we're human. We sometimes make mistakes. We sometimes, a person had nothing to do with an incident. It's just at the wrong place
at the wrong time.
Yep. And we've had that. We had a big thing at TGH where a guy was slammed to the ground. And I saw that. And got the body cam actually. Yeah, and those officers were relieved immediately of duty, and come to find out, one of the officers, it was a miscommunication because she told the officers that were there that he was okay, and then she left.
Yep.
And then these new officers come, they don't know, and then they get into it.
He was in a wheelchair, right?
No, he wasn't in a wheelchair. He was
when I saw him, I think. He was outside of the area, and he was in a wheelchair at that point. Not handicapped in a wheelchair, but he was in a wheelchair, like he had been wheeled out.
I didn't see that, but that was a case of just the wrong place at the wrong time, miscommunication. Because if those other officers would have known that he wasn't trespassed, actually what he was trying to do is help the hospital identify people and keep them out because there was a murder, and they didn't want everyone coming in and out of the hospital. But just long story short, that was my case. And it was just a big mess, but it all came down to that one lack of communication.
And that's all it takes sometimes.
And the officer ends up getting disciplined, not for taking the guy to the ground, but because he used profanity. And so that's another unintended consequence
of what happened.
That happens in these investigations. So I just want you to know that we do take it seriously.
I hope so. I mean, I take it seriously. As you can see, talking to me, I'm not, off the handle on this. Right. I'm trying to be very rational and thought out about what is going on and what's happening here. I mean, like I said, if you've got other officers that want to, I mean,
I'm gonna.
I'll go for a ride or whatever.
I'll contact
I'll hang out.
I think that's good. I think we got to at some point.
I'm all for it. Yeah, I mean, the only thing it's going to do is benefit both of us in the long run. It'll be good for the department because it'll show that the department is trying to do that, and I'm sure the viewers will like it. That's for sure. Let me know what you hear from her supervisor and stuff. And then, do you want to deal with Lieutenant Miller?
Well, if you went to him, they're probably doing their own internal investigation. But I'll reach out to him.
Reach out to him and see what he says.
Yeah, because it hasn't been referred to us yet.
It only happened like a week ago.
Yeah, but a lot of times they deal with their own division discipline. They can do that.
So would I just call him?
Yeah, just call him
and see what he has to say.
What's the outcome, or where are you guys at with it?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. It was good seeing you.
All right. You too. Take care. Stay safe. Thanks.